Shadow in the Cloud is not only the first 2020 release to come out this year, but it is also the first January release of the year. Who knows if we'd have a couple more? Who knows if maybe the first January movie we actually got in a normal year would be another cheapo, horrible horror movie like The Grudge last year? Who knows? But who even knows what normal is anymore? We've got this one. Let's go. This movie takes place during World War II. There's a group of people that are going on this mission up in the clouds. They're hopping aboard their aircraft and they're going to the clouds. And coming with them at the last second is Maude Garrett, played by Chloe Grace Moretz. She's got the papers, so she's not a stowaway, obviously, so she's on board this crew. But the crew doesn't like her because she's a girl. You can't have a girl in World War II, especially not on a mission with us sexist dudes. So you got the sexism angle that's really a problem for her, but then also she gets put in the gunner seat down below the plane and there's a gremlin crawling around, so you gotta deal with that too. And also the sexist. They both go hand in hand, and random fighters that come in and out of the movie whenever they want. The trailer looked like alright for this movie, but I was really weirded out by the fact that Max Landis had written it, because, not just because of his creative endeavors, I actually don't hate all of his movies. I haven't seen Me, Him, Her, or Victor Frankenstein, and I do not like Bright. That's a bad one that he wrote. But, you know, American Ultra was fun. I watched that recently. And I haven't seen this as recently as American Ultra, but Mr. Right, I thought, you know, that's a fun one. Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick are having fun together. It's a fun movie, and Chronicle is obviously great. But, you know, going back to Chronicle is not really the best as far as like a defense of his creative talents go, because Josh Trank also started with Chronicle, and he's now done Fan Four Stick and then Capone, so maybe Chronicle is just cursed. But more than just he's kind of iffy as far as like his creative endeavors, recently he was outed as a human trash can, so I was wondering why he was the one who had written this movie, why his script was being made, especially like this like strong feminist kind of movie where he's the one who recently, back in 2015, kind of enabled the Mary Sue arguments. Like, he really brought those into fruition. Luckily, though, Chloe Grace Moretz and the director have stated, like, the script has been rewritten a bunch, so he wasn't a part of the production, and, you know, it's much different than what he started it with. I mean, he still has enough percentage of the script still left over for him to get credit in the end credits of this movie. I don't know the procedure of the Writers Guild or whoever decides this, but if they say that it's completely different for the most part than his original work, then okay, I guess I'll take it. So there was a part of me that was like, maybe this can be fun, you know, that's what I've kind of heard. Like, some people have not really liked it, but then there's some people that say, you know, it's kind of fun, you know, it's a fun little bottle film. So I was kind of interested in seeing this movie, paid $20 for it, and then the Redbox logo showed up. Now, Redbox Entertainment, you know, they used to put out just red kiosks outside of like 7-Elevens or Walmarts or like CVS's, places like that, for you to just rent movies. But now they're making movies, so get ready for more Redbox Entertainment, like The Fanatic and Capone movies they've distributed. Needless to say, my hopes were quickly kind of dashed, and I was hanging on by like a thread. And there was a point in the movie where I was like, you know, this has a lot of issues, but it's alright, you know, it could be worse. And then it got worse. It took a nosedive. Whoops. I think the main thing about this movie is that when it opens up, it's very short. It's an hour and 20-minute movie, and they're keeping things going as quickly as they possibly can. And you really don't care about the main character as much as you want to. There's a big secret that at some point later on in the movie, she expositions everything out, and she's carrying around a literal mystery box. That J.J. Abrams screenwriting technique, she's carrying around a literal mystery box for the beginning of it. Like, you can't look inside there, but I can't sit with it because I'm in the gunner seat, so don't look at it. Keep it over there, safe, one good guy on this aircraft. So the movie does at least open with some intrigue about her, where you're like, okay, what's in the box, and what's up with you? And then you find out, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I don't care. You know, they don't really give you much of a reason to care beforehand. So when they reveal, like, oh, this character's actually, you know, got a big backstory, it's like, well, I wish I cared a whole lot more for her, so when you revealed this, it would be like oh, impacted me. I felt something. Instead, it just feels like, well, now's the point in the movie where she has to tell everyone who she actually is. And it's like, oh, okay. we're hitting this beat. We're hitting beats. Even the beginning of the conflict of the sexist guys above her saying nasty, like sexual kind of shit to her and also just being completely disrespectful. I like that idea of having, of you following a woman and having her deal with it firsthand. But the way this movie kind of does it, because like I said, it's going very quickly. They only have time to do the bare minimum. So the first line of dialogue, one of them says, it's got the, you know, the New York accent, like, hey, baby, like that kind of vibe. And it's like, oh, uh-oh, and then it keeps going. I wish I was looking at this crew as characters. Even if they're awful, sexist people, I want to look at them as characters. I need everything to be well-rounded. You know, I need everything firing on all cylinders. So I need these guys to really work. Even if they're bad characters, we need to get to know them and experience things with them and make them feel more than just the cartoon caricatures that they are. I never got past the fact that I was looking at just sexist cartoon caricatures the entire time. It doesn't help that the acting feels very stereotypical and a lot of the dialogue is bad. Some of it intentional, like, you know, they're saying nasty stuff, but then a lot of other stuff is just, no, that's just bad writing that you're doing right there. And you're giving these actors these lines to say. That's bad. Chloe Grace Moretz is the only one that I'd say isn't awful in this movie because, like I said, they give her at least some intrigue in the beginning, and you do like her in the sense that you don't like that she's having to put up with this crap. But as I said before, you don't really care much about her other than when they revealed the thing about her. It's like, okay, I guess that's the end of the character story, you know. But then there's also the fact that her acting every once in a while feels very unconvincing. Like she's like screaming in this like heavy war environment, and it feels like she's just screaming at nothing, like she has no idea what she's reacting to. Nick Robinson is in this movie, you know, and he's not the nice guy that I mentioned before. He's played by just some dude who, once again, you know, there's a story there, but you don't care enough about these characters. For a large majority of the movie, she's just underneath the plane talking over the radio, and you just hear their voices, but because you didn't really spend a whole lot of time with them beforehand, it's hard to kind of associate what voice is coming from who. Is that the sexist guy, or is that Nick Robinson? Is that Nick Robinson? Or is that the captain co-pilot? Who is speaking right now? And except for like one guy, there's one guy who didn't have an American accent. Everyone else has like that American accent or like New York accent that you would hear, and they're constantly yelling. So it's like, I can't tell who's who. I'm checking out. But yeah, Nick Robinson is in this movie, and he's a good actor, you know. Love, Simon, one of my favorite movies of 2018. He's terrific in it. And then A Teacher. Bad show? Yes. But he's good in it, you know. He's a really good actor when he's not in Jurassic World. And in this movie, I can't say he's bad. He's just... Number one, I don't know what lines he said over the radio, so I can't tell if he was, like, really annoying or not. But also, whenever he is on screen, they're not just showing it over the radio. You know, it's like, so what? I don't care about this character. I don't know him at all. When characters die or when characters survive, it's like, I wish I could care about this, you know, the action sequence. There's one scene in the beginning where the gremlin like attacks her gunner seat like immediately, and she's trying to keep the hatch closed, and there's a moment of body horror with her finger that legitimately freaked me out. And that was some good direction, some good use of suspense. Very good scene. Every other action scene outside of that is really bad. You know, it does not help that they're dealing with a lot of awful green screen at a certain point, you know, but the visual effects, the creature itself that they're dealing with actually looks pretty good. Design-wise, it looks pretty good, but as it goes on, there's moments where through the direction, through the staging, you can tell they don't know what they're acting off against. You know, this isn't there to them. What started off as like fairly like suspenseful enough, like she's below the ship and this thing is literally like staring her dead in the face, but no one believes her because she's just a crazy girl. It quickly divulges into like just like over the top nonsense. It feels like Max Landis saw Overlord or saw like the marketing for Overlord and was like, hey, I want to do that, but worse. So he wrote a script. Once again, this script has been rewritten. And who knows if that's actually what happened. Maybe he wrote this back in 2015 and didn't have a single clue Overlord was going to be a thing someday. But still, I think points can still stand that a lot of this script just falls flat compared to something like Overlord, which I like, don't love, that has issues. This movie has a lot of those similar issues and then more. Like there's moments in this movie where it seems like physics just don't apply. Like all of a sudden, what started off as like a World War II movie but with a clever little sci-fi twist, now it feels like we're watching that, but with Fast and the Furious kind of logic. And it's like, why is this now part of the movie, you know? And I've heard some people try to say, like, well, you know, we don't say anything when Fast and the Furious does crazy stuff. And it's like, man, Fast and the Furious, like I feel like I've said this before, you can do dumb shit in your action movies, but in the visual language of the movie, like in the context of that, how they shoot it, how they set it up, or if it feels in tone with the rest of the series as well, then, you know, it's easier to kind of let it go, like, okay, that's crazy, but, you know, it falls in line with the rest of these movies, and also, like, I can kind of see how they're trying to get away with it, with how they're trying to shoot it. With this movie, like, no, it starts off as one thing, and then it changes on a dime just because we need more excitement now. And all of a sudden, there's this spoiler that I won't mention if you really want to see this movie, but I was just wondering, how did this spoiler survive all of this, you know? How is this possible? You'll know what I mean as soon as you see the movie, but god, it does not seem possible. There's a moment where, like, Chloe Grace Moretz, it feels like she just teleports to one location just to catch this gremlin off guard at one point, and it's like, but how is... No, stop doing that. Like, that doesn't even feel right. This doesn't even feel like Fast and the Furious goofy. This just doesn't feel right, you know? There's a moment she falls out of a plane. A plane comes right below her and explodes. And it pushes her back into the plane that she just fell out of. That's not possible. You can't do that. I'm pretty sure, I'm not a genius, but I'm pretty sure if something exploded beneath you, you would continue falling into the fire explosion cloud. You know, I don't think it has enough force to push you back into a plane you just fell out of. Unless it was like a sonic boom cannon at close range that hit her, but no, it's not possible. So the action is very unconvincing, and it becomes completely different than that one scene that it started off with. Like, you know, good intensity and like a good body horror moment with her finger, and, you know, good acting from her, good creature design. All of a sudden it's just like, oh, well, now the CGI is more noticeable, not just the creature, but the green screen. And the actors sometimes don't look like they're reacting appropriately to certain things, or there's goofy shit happening, or, you know, we need some random fighter pilots now, either German or Japanese, don't remember, but doesn't matter. No, we just need them to fly in now, because now it's that time of the movie. This movie even has a musical score that is very synthy, which I thought, you know, this is like a B-movie kind of premise. I'm sure, like, this music kind of falls in line with that. Why not? It is weird that you're hearing synth in a period piece, a World War II period piece, where even the movie starts off with like a World War II cartoon. I don't think an actual one, because it looks very modern, and although gremlins were a thing in World War II propaganda shows, the design is this, and that is not what the gremlin looks like in this movie, or even in the cartoon that they show. I don't have a problem with them having a cartoon that shows the exact creature that they're gonna fight against, because, you know, they're making their own story, you know, revisionist history, why not? The point I'm trying to get at is that with a movie that opens up with something that, you know, is a little more modern, but is still trying to feel authentic to a time period, why then go with synth? But, you know, I was thinking in the beginning, like, maybe I'm just nitpicking, I'm just being a snob about the soundtrack. Maybe, you know, it sounds pretty good, so it'll probably be okay, just let it go. At a certain point, the music is just playing just to play, and it doesn't feel like it's matching up to any certain beats or any, like, specific moment in the movie. It just feels like music is playing, and it loses any urgency, it loses any sense of intensity. It's just... you're just watching stuff happen with weird music playing over it. And there's even a certain point where I don't think it's part of the score. It sounds like a woman is singing, because it's not like any actual words you can, like, make out. It's like a lot of noise that she's making, the vocalist. And it's like, what is this? What is this? What are you trying to go for? At the end of the day, what this movie is just a cool idea for a bottle film, for sure, but when they actually went about executing it, everything just came across as rushed, or not properly developed. The ending of this movie is abrupt. That's very common for a lot of movies, but for this one it feels like maybe it shouldn't be as abrupt as this is, because what's the aftermath of an incident like this, especially with certain things tying to it, like this backstory Chloe Grace Moretz mentioned? Is that going to come back into play? Because I don't think that would be the end of it. What's going to happen next? Nothing happens next. The movie just cuts off. And then they show you, like, some compilation clips of women during World War II, which obviously, hey, that's important, but what about the narrative of the film? They use certain things to make it feel like there's more going on in the story, but by the time the story ends, it's like, oh, we really didn't even need that at all. This movie could have literally just been, like, characters flatly talking to each other, but having to deal with this situation. And it probably would have turned out better because at least you're not tied to the expectations of, well, these are characters that I should really care about. If you're just making a movie that feels like, oh, it's just an experience this crazy thing with these people, then, you know, it probably would have gotten more off of a pass. Like, you know, it's not the most three-dimensional movie out there, but it was pretty cool. This movie isn't pretty cool. It doesn't have the great filmmaking to back it to get you really engaged with everything else. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that's supposed to feel intense gets you on the edge of your seat action-wise, instead just makes you kind of slouch back and not really care about what's going on. They try to add in character, but instead it kind of backfires, so it would have been better if they didn't try at all, really. I'm gonna give Shadow in the Cloud a D+. I like the creature design for the gremlin. It does have a good premise. I do like the idea going in, and that one scene with Chloe Grace Moretz under the plane, very good. But everything else about this movie, the bad characters, the poorly developed ones, the bad acting, the bad dialogue, the horrible green screen at a certain point, bad, unconvincing action, bad score even, that started off maybe kind of promising even though it didn't fit the time period. You know, everything else about this movie starts to fall very short of where it should have ended up at. But if you've seen Shadow in the Cloud, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.